I humiliated my bedwetting husband and now he refuses to talk to me. Help. I was woken up this morning because the sheets I was lying on were wet. I assumed our child, 6, had had an accident, but when I checked where the wetness came from to my surprise, turned out it wasn't her but my husband that had wet the bed. After I had taken a shower I woke him up and told him he'd wet the bed. At first he denied it, then I guess he realized he indeed had as he got this mortified look on his face, jumped right out of bed and started to try rip the bedding off. As we have pull-on sheets and our child was sleeping on the other side he didn't get them off. It looked stupid and honestly quite funny so I chuckled. He angrily told me it wasn't funny so I stopped. At that point the only thing his pulling of the sheets had accomplished was to wake up our child, who was confused and asked what was going on. He didn't say crap, just idiotically continued to try get the sheets off. So when he didn't reply I just told her he'd wet the bed. At that he just froze and looked at me with this weird look on his face, almost like he was about to cry or something. Our child asked why he'd wet the bed, and as he still was completely silent I went something along the line of that sometimes accidents happen. He just stood there staring at me. If looks could kill I would be dead, and I'm not exaggerating when I say he looked at me with pure hate. I've never been afraid of him, but for a second or two I thought he might hit me. Then he just dropped the things he'd managed to get off the bed on the floor, left the room and locked himself in the bathroom for about 45 minutes. When he came out he got dressed in a hurry and just left with saying you can take her to school. He didn't even look at me. His behavior really annoyed me but I just let him be as I didn't want to argue with him when he was in such a bad mood. When I got home from work he was still sulking, and basically ignored me. I was still annoyed with him from the morning so his behavior annoyed me even more. So I told him to get over it, that it wasn't the end of the world that he wet the bed, and to stop taking it out on me. At that he accused me of having humiliated him when I told our child. I found that utterly ridiculous on so many levels. So I angrily told him that he humiliated himself when he effing wet the bed, not me. He didn't take that too well, and said F you and went off to his computer, and now he refuses to talk to me. And I just feel confused. I think he's the one that behaved poorly and immature and that I haven't done anything wrong. The last thing I said may have been harsh but I feel like he had it coming. Yet I feel like perhaps I was mean to him? Am I the a-hole? I told my friend's fatty boyfriend that he shouldn't have been allowed to eat at all. Now she's been ignoring me while probably patting her boyfriend's fat little stomach. Some friends and I decided to do the trend where we have a dinner and everybody brings food that starts with the first letter of their name. There is one friend of ours that's a bit of a moocher. Whenever we go out she never pays for stuff, whether it's the dinner bill, tickets for the movies etc., we always end up paying for her. But everyone accepted this and doesn't really have an issue with it. However, recently, it's become worse. She's been dating this guy for a couple of months and she brings him everywhere with her, even when he's not invited. So now we have 2 people to pay for. Also I feel like I have to say that they have jobs. They're not struggling. It'd be different if they were broke, then of course I wouldn't mind. We had dinner last night and everybody brought food and put a lot of effort into it. These 2 however showed up with absolutely nothing. Not even a bottle of soda. We were annoyed but nobody said anything. It wasn't until the end of the night when they were leaving, that I cracked a little. The friend's boyfriend was taking home all the barbecue ribs that were left. I repeat, all of it was a lot. Like damn, be considerate at least. He emptied the entire tray of ribs into a container. That's when I politely asked, can you maybe not take all of it? The others might want some too. He got all defensive and asked, why are you treating me like I'm stealing all the food? I clarified that I never said such a thing and that I only asked that he didn't take all of it. He got angry, plopped the ribs back and said, fine, I don't need your food, to which I replied, it kinda seems like you do and to be honest, you shouldn't have eaten at all since you didn't contribute again, as usual. Then my friend came, took him and just left without saying anything. Now apparently, she's angry with us. Mainly me. Most of my friend group doesn't think I did anything wrong but there are a couple who are saying that I shouldn't have said anything. The thing is that I didn't even say anything to my friend because I didn't mind that she didn't contribute. Her boyfriend was the one irritating me. He eats the most food but doesn't contribute, drinks the most drinks, doesn't contribute, orders really expensive meals at restaurants, doesn't contribute towards the bill. I guess I got kind of annoyed and snapped at him. I confronted her like many of you suggested and started off by saying I thought it was unfair her boyfriend was taking all the food and that's why I spoke up. She said she's sorry, and her boyfriend only did that because he didn't think anyone would mind. I should say that even though she eats these things, she's never taken copious amounts of food before. I said that I don't speak on behalf of everyone but I feel it's unfair that she keeps bringing her boyfriend and also that she never contributes to anything. Since she had just been apologetic, I thought she would respond by saying that she would start to contribute but instead, she asked why I cared so much because I don't even eat ribs and that I embarrassed her and her boyfriend for nothing. I don't eat meat but that was beside the point. My friend put a lot of hours into cooking those ribs just for this guy to take them all? No, it's not right. And I didn't make a scene, he did. I spoke very politely. So I explained that again and said that she's been an inconsiderate friend. She said, I don't know why you're attacking me when nobody else has a problem, then said that she didn't want to associate with me anymore. I said that was fine and that was the end of it. I told the others the outcome and that a friend that introduced Mooch to us was really mad that I caused a rift between everyone over food. So the group essentially split up and those who were irritated with me will continue to hang out with her. The others who secretly found her annoying but were too polite also spoke up and decided to branch off too.
I told my mean girl daughter to stay TF away from my family. I have a daughter, 19, and 2 sons, 16 and 12. My daughter Sydney is, when we're one-on-one, a great kid. She's bright, she's funny, she sets goals and works hard to meet them. I love her very much, and have done my best to support her. She currently attends college about an hour from our home, which my spouse and I pay for, along with her housing and everything. However, Sydney is just awful to her 16-year-old brother, Lucas, and pretty much always has been. She picks on him constantly, calls him stupid, belittles his accomplishments, and is just generally mean. We've tried to improve this behavior many times over the years. We've done individual counseling for her, individual counseling for Lucas, family counseling with all of us. We tried finding them activities to do together. We've tried any consequence/incentive we could think of, and finally we just tried to keep them separate as much as possible. For his part, Lucas spent his younger years thinking Sydney was the coolest person ever and tried so hard to play with her and be nice to her. I'm not saying he never started any of the conflict, but it wasn't nearly the same level of random meanness as from his sister. He also responded to consequences and his behavior generally improved over time. He's also a great kid, has lots of friends, does well in school, and is researching colleges now. For the last few years he mostly just tried to avoid Sydney, which got easier as they both had their own activities. We had hoped that through all our efforts and the process of growing up, Sydney would at least learn to ignore her brother rather than lashing out. She's very capable of being nice to others. She has her own circle of friends, she gets along well with our 12-year-old, and never really got in trouble at school. I know that I'm not seeing her 24/7, but I really think this is isolated to her relationship with Lucas. When she came home from college for Thanksgiving, everything started up again. She immediately started teasing Lucas about his clothes, told him he'd never get into a good college, and generally took every opportunity to pick a fight. It was exhausting. Now, she's planning on coming home for 2 weeks at Christmas. She lives in an apartment and doesn't have to come home like she did when she lived in the dorms. I told her that if she can't be kind to, or failing that at least ignore, her brother then she can't come home. I think she thought I was joking at first and kind of laughed and said something about not being able to promise that, and I said that's fine, don't come home then. I've made it clear she's welcome anytime she can act civilly with her family, and I'm not threatening to cut her off financially in any way. We made a promise, I intend on keeping it. Now that she's an adult with her own living space, I don't think Lucas should have to deal with her anymore, and he's still living under our roof. Sydney is very angry with me and says she's never coming home again, and my wife thinks I'm being too harsh, and that maybe we should have just told her she couldn't stay as long so Lucas can still enjoy his break. So, Ada for telling my daughter not to come home? I feel like I might be because it's also her home, but she still has housing available so maybe not. My lazy wife packed everything without saying a word to me so I forced her to talk. Now I'm being told I'm going to jail. I've been with my girlfriend for 8 years. She always turned down my proposal saying she wasn't ready and said when she did, she wanted to keep her own last name which I'm very against. She refused to have children with me and would only give me gawk 9,000 if I did it to her, which I don't like doing so we pretty much had a dead bedroom because she said I was lazy and not engaging which, look I'm a wham bam, thank you ma'am kinda guy I don't like dragging it out. Girls I dated in the past could get off quick so I don't get why she wants to drag it out. I also think our division of labor was pretty fair and I left the cleaning and cooking to her because when I did it wasn't to her standards so I said fine she can do it then. I do the other stuff but even sometimes that isn't good enough for her. I know we weren't perfect but no relationship is. And I did love her despite how hard-headed and stubborn she was. Today she was out with her friend and she was an hour late. I started calling her and texting her because admittedly I was hangry and had a hard day at work so I just wanted to eat and I didn't want to make a snack because then it would spoil my appetite for dinner. I see a U-Haul truck park across the street and I think nothing of it but then my girlfriend walks in with some suitcases I've never seen and starts packing everything that belongs to her. She didn't acknowledge me when I asked what she was doing. She went into our bedroom and grabbed all her clothes, her laptop, literally everything of hers. I kept asking her to please talk to me but she acted like I wasn't even there. I started yelling at her, getting in her way, even grabbing and shaking her to just talk to me. Holy crap, I know you can hear me, and she just looked away from me not saying anything. I grew angry and I pushed her to the floor and, still nothing. It was almost scary how she just acted like I literally wasn't there. And then she was just gone. And now to make it worse her brother messaged me saying girlfriend has evidence of me abusing her just because I had a normal human reaction of someone I loved acting like I don't exist. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted? Surely anyone would react the way I did if someone literally acted like they didn't hear you when you shake them? Apparently she had a hidden camera on her and I feel sick to my stomach that she set me up like that.
My man baby husband won't go anywhere without his chicky nuggies. My 23 husband, 36, will only eat kitty food and it's ruining our relationship. We met when I was 19, in my sophomore year of college. We got married after graduation and moved in together shortly after. I didn't realize how strict his diet was until after we were married. My husband will only eat chicken nuggets, grilled cheese, and SpaghettiOs. That's it. When we go over to friends' places he'll actually bring some SpaghettiOs to heat up in their microwave instead of eating anything else, even if our friends cooked a wonderful meal. If we go out somewhere to eat he will only order chicken nuggets off the kids' menu. If they don't have them, he just won't eat. If I try to cook literally anything except one of his 3 food groups, he will claim he's allergic to some random ingredient instead of just outright saying he doesn't want to eat it. He'll then try to guilt me for forgetting his allergy. Spoiler, we've been to the doctor and he's not allergic to anything. My husband just turned 36 this month. His food habits were sort of cute/acceptable when we were both in college and eating like trash, but now I'm genuinely worried about his health. I also find myself avoiding any sort of dining situations with our friends, which is so much harder than it sounds. I've tried talking to him about his eating habits and just he brushes me off. Since I don't cook his meals, the only victory I've had in this situation, he doesn't think I have the right to dictate what he can and can't eat. I'm not his mother. I'm his wife. But I just want my husband, the man I love, to be healthy. He's going to end up on Weight Watchers or just dead on the couch because he's 600 pounds and couldn't get up to use the bathroom. What do I do? My manic friend used her pregnancy as an excuse to do something sinister. You probably heard this on the news or something. Jane has been my closest friend since we were 7 years old. She probably knows more about me than anyone else in the world, even my parents and partner. We've always been like siblings and stayed together when our other friends drifted away. She was my biggest supporter when I was abused by an ex-partner. I was her biggest supporter when she dropped out of university because of her depression. If I had nobody else, I always had her. Everything had been fine until I found out she was pregnant. I was shocked because she didn't have a partner I knew about and she's really young, and she also didn't tell me. I was suspicious for a while because she was often sick and had gained weight, but I didn't want to point it out since she's always been thin. Eventually I confronted her and she admitted that she was almost 7 months, but she only recently found out. I called bull in my head because there was no way you could think a pregnant belly was normal weight gain. How did she not feel the baby kicking or her missed period? But I was there for her. I should have talked to someone because I was worried that she was so in denial, but I didn't. Before and after she told me she was pregnant, she was way more manic than she had been before. She would call me in the middle of the night and start a normal conversation like it was the middle of the day. She would say weird things about herself and her family, but she's always had a morbid sense of humor and they were never scary or threats. I keep looking for hints that she was going to do this, but I can't find anything other than the pregnancy did something to her brain. Jane has a younger sibling who was her parents' surprise baby. We never spent a lot of time with sibling because of the age gap, but I knew from being at the family's house that they had a nut allergy. Jane joked about it a lot because it was annoying to keep their food separate. I still don't know a lot of details because either Jane won't say anything or the police won't, but I found out through her parents that her sibling had died from an allergic reaction. It was from peanut butter that the parents hadn't bought, and Jane was the only other person in the house and nobody knows if she tricked them into eating it or force-fed them, after hiding their EpiPen. I don't know what happened, but the police took her in and they haven't let her go. I feel sick because it wasn't an accident, she unalived them. Her parents say she must have been trying to prove they were really allergic, but that doesn't help her. She still did it on purpose and they can't prove she wasn't trying to kill them. She hid the EpiPen, it must have been planned, she knew they would die without it. She's 9 months pregnant and probably in prison right now. I don't know if her parents will keep her baby. None of this feels real and I can't breathe. My neglected daughter ruined my precious golden child's life and now she's thriving. How do I fix my family? My daughters stopped talking to each other over a man 3 years ago. I still don't know how to make things better. I will admit that I showed a great deal of favoritism towards my youngest Blair, 25, while growing up. It wasn't intentional, and by the time I realized my mistake, my oldest Anna had grown so angry and resentful of her sister. My husband and I played a part in Anna's resentment, and though we tried, Anna never let us get close to her. We spoiled Blair, but we did try to do the best for Anna, but I can admit we fell short in some places. We had a few incidents where Blair knew she was more loved. Blair and her friends would often tease Anna. But on one occasion, she helped this boy who liked Anna to find a moment alone with her. This boy, an absolute filth of a human, forced himself on Anna. It was the worst experience of my life. When they returned home, both Blair and Anna were crying. Blair begged for forgiveness, but Anna was hearing none of it. My husband and I tried to help her through it. Tried to explain how sorry Blair was and it wasn't her fault. How could she have known something vile would happen? I tried and tried to talk to Anna. But she never gave us a chance. Anna hated her even more since then. When Blair came home from her first year of college, she had a boyfriend named John. It was her first love and Blair was so happy and excited. We were all happy for her, except for Anna. But she said nothing to anyone. Life went on until Blair came home crying and accused Anna of sleeping with John. My husband and I didn't want to believe it, but Anna happily admitted to doing it. Worse, she never told Blair. It was back in Blair's first holiday from college. Nearly 2 years ago, when Anna had slept with John, she never confessed and willingly let Blair continue to fall in love, move in, and get attached to John. When we confronted her, she just said it wouldn't have hurt if Blair found out immediately. She hoped Blair found out only after John had proposed and even married her. After everything we and Blair put her through, she wasn't going to leave us happy. Blair was heartbroken, and that night Anna left our house and never talked to us again. That was 3 years ago. Blair and John broke up and the heartbreak deeply affected Blair's studies. Recently, one of my sister's daughters showed me a post on Facebook. It was Anna. Apparently she was married and expecting her first child. The post sent Blair into a fit of rage. She kept cursing Anna and crying. It seems Anna had finished her studies, gotten a good job and married a good man and now was having a baby. Anna seems to have it all sorted out but she won't let us in on her life. All while she purposely ruined Blair's and got away scot-free. This is what Blair thinks. I just want them to be friends. I want to talk to my daughter again. My daughters hate each other, all for a man who cared for neither. How do I fix my family?
What do you think mankind's greatest achievement is? If you really think about it, airplanes are effing wild, man. Discovering fire. Ain't nothing would have existed if our caveman granddaddies didn't F around and learn to burn crap. I would say the scientific method is the single greatest achievement of humankind. Nothing has caused more change in such a short time, and all the major changes in society we have experienced over the last 500 years can be in some way attributed to the scientific method. This objective, testing and evidence-based worldview has directly led to modern communications, the internet and smartphones. You can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Translate any living language, access the sum of all human knowledge in an instant. Modern vaccinations and antibiotics. We have eradicated smallpox worldwide, nearly the same for polio too. Tuberculosis, whooping cough, mumps, and a great number of other diseases are almost unheard of in modern industrialized nations. Though sadly these are resurfacing due to the great stupidity of a few. Nitrogen fixation for agriculture. The Haber-Bosch process, which allows the fixation of atmospheric nitrogen into a solid form for fertilizer. This development enabled food production on an unprecedented scale, allowing the Earth's population to grow from 0.6 billion in 1900 to over 7 billion today. The moon landing. We strapped 3 guys to a skyscraper full of explosives, chucked them at another planet and brought them back again. We did that using less computing power than a calculator watch, and we did it less than 10 years after we decided to go. Electricity. As destructive as fossil fuels have been to the environment, they have enabled incredible changes in the standard of living for low to middle income people. Electrification of the US allowed for industrial growth, and the rise of the middle class. We know better today, and now we are using the scientific method to discover new, cleaner energy solutions. For the future. All of these incredible human achievements were made possible by a rigorous intellectual philosophy that demands we observe the world around us, question everything, test hypotheses, and form conclusions based only on the evidence. Written language followed closely by the McRib. What was the best relationship advice you have ever received? As our sweet oldest brother Justin McElroy says, the work in every relationship should be split 60-40, with both people trying to be the one giving 60%. Do the small things. Can I show you this thing I made? Want to walk the dog with me quickly? Just small stuff like that. I read somewhere that your willingness to do those things can determine a lot of your marriage. Sometimes I definitely don't want to get off the couch and help my wife with something, but I know she really appreciates it when I do. It helps her feel loved and appreciated in ways that you just can't when it's only the big things. Big things build the structure, little things fill in the gaps. Not me but my mom. When she and my dad were on their second separation, she was out with her best friend and was venting about all the problems in the marriage and all the things she wanted him to change. Her friend asked her, "What are you willing to change about yourself?" It made my mother think about how she negatively affected the marriage too and realized that if she wanted him to change things about himself, she needed to be willing to change things about herself and meet him halfway. They've been back together for over 25 years and have been going strong. You can love a lot of people, but it doesn't mean you're meant to be with any of them. Definitely saved me from settling a few times. When arguing, it's us versus the problem instead of me versus you. Even if you're married, never stop dating your spouse. Love is active. Don't do anything that will make the other person's day more difficult. Simple, but still the best advice I've ever received. Talk about money. How you spend it, what you owe, what you'd like to do with it. Keep each other accountable. Also, never ever belittle your partner, especially in front of other people. And speak up for your partner if they need it. Communicate constantly. I would use the puppy principle. When you buy a puppy, people usually look for the one that is most happy to see you and jumps to lick you. Same for people, date someone that when they see you, their eyes light up and get excited. Eyes are also one of the best communications of love. The way couples look at each is a good indication of their feelings. Work together, never put your so down, never manipulate them. Be honest with them. Love who you are so you can better love your so. Finally, don't stay with someone that doesn't look out for your best interest, be with someone who helps you grow. Don't ignore red flags because of love, help them if you can but be fair to yourself and leave to protect yourself.